house, new room. Happy with the new room. It's pretty nice, nicer than where I lived before. I hope you're happy too. We're good. We're back to the usual reviews after the classics week that we had last week. Pretty good. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And here we're talking about the new Fontaines D.C. album. Fontaines D.C, as you may already know, are an Irish post-punk band. They really broke out last year. They got some huge acclaim for that debut album, Doggerel, and it got like a Mercury Prize nomination. They were really one of the front runners to win that as well. I feel like it was them, Idols, and Little Sims that were really about to, break through and win the award, win a big award for their careers. And it went to Dave. It went to Dave. You picked Dave over Little Sims, even Fontaines D.C. You picked Dave. I wasn't huge on Doggerel, but it was good. It was a good album. It was an enjoyable post-punk album that took influences from the heyday of the genre, the Fall, Gang of Four, any other bands you want to name through that period, the early 80s up until like the mid 80s. It was big for that genre, especially in the UK. But I think with this kind of stuff, it can really hit or it doesn't, because if you're drowning in your influences, it's not always the most exciting thing really. So pretty much less than a year later, they follow it up, and what do? They make their sound even more bland than it could have been before by just having all the energy that was on that debut dissipate. I don't know if it's a me thing or it is the fact that the band is just sounding less exciting on this one, because it really sounds like there's a lack of distinctness here. I can't really make out the vocalist and who he really is and what he's offering on this album. And then there's the lack of soul. Like there's just not much of a driving force on this one. Like there's just something missing. There's something off. They truly don't sound distinct at all. It really could be any old band playing these songs, and I don't really feel like the debut had that really. As much as I wasn't in love with it or anything, you could at least see like the pulse, like pulsating throughout the album, something driving the songs, whereas so many tracks on here are just so tame. At times it really does sound like revivalist type stuff, where the band is just playing so closely to the post-punk playbook that they're not really letting room for any exciting, innovating ideas. It just sounds at points like the opening track, for example, really sounds too close to like the Joy Division type stuff. It's so desolate and morbid, the way that he's singing, the way that the music sounds. It doesn't really lure me in at all. In fact, I was kind of surprised at how uninteresting it sounded to start off your album. I was just a bit like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this. Love Is the Main Thing, again, that sort of like gothic post-punk stuff you'd get from Bauhaus, just really like dire in the way that they're presenting it as well. I feel as though this band was better at bringing those animated and lively vocals to the forefront that carried the songs. Again, more similar to stuff like you'd get from The Fall, where you just have this really exciting and engaging singer bringing these powerful performances, but so much of this album doesn't play to that at all. You do get the two-peat run of Televised Mind and then Lucid Dream, where you get the best of what this band has to offer. These tracks really give me a lot in terms of the vocals. Like I was pretty hyped to hear how quirky and odd the guy was singing, the way the guy was singing on this track. Like he was giving me some kind of like David Byrne type stuff at points. They're two tracks for me that provide what they're the best at, I feel like this is what I remember from more of their debut. And where is it on the rest of the album? You Said might be one of the worst examples of the vocals on here though. Like here, like it's like operating faster, operating faster. And I'm just like, there's just so little going on, and you just have to wonder exactly what inspired their performances here, because they truly don't sound inspired at all. Then it kind of makes me wonder if lockdown inspired this album, if they were trapped away altogether recording the music. Obviously lockdown affected many people in many ways, and I don't know if it worked in their favor, because these songs don't really sound like they carry as much as you'd want from this band, or whether it's the fact that it is only really a year later. Did they rush this? Did they not really put together these tracks in the best way they could have? I don't know. The closing track reminded me a lot of how the latest Smith Street Band album sounded. It just like lacked so much spark, lacked fire. Just not the best of what you could get from the best days of the band in the Smith Street Band, and also Fontaines D.C. Like, it just really summed up the entire album for me, because it was just so dire to sit through, and I was like, yeah, an album like this really truly deserved a dire closing track. Living in America seemed to kind of, sort of, have something to say on America. It really didn't, but it kind of did at the same time. It reminded me a little bit of what Proto Martyr would do, and honestly, listening through this album reminds me of how good you can bring back a sound like this, because Proto Martyr are really one of the best around at doing it, and at least in their tracks there's some really interesting lyrical themes, and listening to this track was just making me think, God, I would just rather be listening to that than this. I've got to go 5 out of 10. This really wasn't my cup of tea at all, honestly, but I guess sophomore slumps are pretty common, kind of. Let me know your thoughts on this one, though. You might like it way more than I do. I think this probably won't go down too well for the fans of this band, who really love their music and probably love this album too. But I don't think it quite comes to par with their debut. Let me know if you think it's better or you think it's worse as well. Thank you for watching my review. Hopefully you have a good day, and goodbye.